Everyone. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. This one is a super interesting one, and I know that so many of you are going to appreciate the words of our guest, Erin Wesley. If you ever find yourself doing great all day and then boom, after dinner, you want to overeat. You've already had what you needed all day long, but maybe you haven't. So there's so many questions centered around why we overeat after dinner and what's behind that. So we're talking about why overeating after dinner happens and what you can do instead. So we have the amazing Erin Wesley with us, eating recovery coach. She's going to walk us through the real reasons behind those urges and what you can do instead so that you can shift those habits without guilt or without willpower battles, which are awful. So I will go ahead and hand it over to Erin to introduce herself and we'll get started. Hey, Erin.
Thank you so much for having me, Whitney.
You're so welcome.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this topic, why you overeat after dinner and what to do about it. Because 95% of the clients that I've worked with around eating disorders and body image issues have this same issue. I am a therapist that specializes in eating disorders. I was formerly an eating disorder coach before I went back to school so that I could work with folks around trauma and eating disorders in an even deeper way. But I'm here to tell you that nighttime eating is such a common struggle. Whether you're trying to currently lose weight, whether you're, coping with emotional eating, nighttime eating is rarely about willpower and much more about unmet needs. So today, let's look at 4 strategies that I teach to pretty much all of my clients to help you shift this habit. So first, a little story about myself. The reason I work with folks with eating disorders is because I had one myself. So I'm super passionate about helping other people recover in this area. But in my recovery journey, I was doing a lot better, eating 3 meals a day, eating snacks, feeling a lot more sane around food, a lot less binges. But I still found myself hungry at night, feeling like I wanted to pick at food. I had already had everything I needed for the day, and I just felt this compulsion to go to the fridge, open it up, have a little bite of leftovers, or pick at a little bit of something sweet. And then I would slam the refrigerator door shut and think, okay, stop. I'm not hungry. I don't know what this is, but I've got to, distract myself. And then 10 minutes later, I'd be back in the pantry eating kid snacks and all kinds of things. I felt like a crazy person and I could not get the behavior under control until I kind of developed this process that you and I are going to talk about today. So here are the 4 tools. Make sure you're eating enough throughout the day. Those of you who are dieting may have not realized that you may be living at a low level of hunger kind of all the time. And so when you get to the end of the day, your dinner may not feel as satisfying as it needs to because you've been dealing with a low level of hunger, and that will send you to the food every time. Allow yourself one sweet treat every day, and we're going to talk about what this method looks like. Use the 10-minute pause and distraction method to help you hold yourself off from those urges when you know that they're not biological hunger. And explore the emotions driving the urge. Emotional eating can be a big part of this nighttime eating. So step 1, eating enough throughout the day. If you arrive at dinner famished, a normal dinner is not likely going to feel like enough. The key to helping yourself and your body and your brain know that you have had enough fuel throughout the day is to eat smaller portions throughout the day. Eat a nice combination of protein, fats, fiber, and carbohydrates throughout the day so that you're not getting to dinner famished. When you hold yourself off from food a lot during the day, when your body is deprived of the amount of fuel that it actually needs, you get to dinner so hungry that all bets are off. If you're at the hangry or famished stage, you've gone too far in pushing your hunger cues. And so then it can become really hard to moderate, to stop, to say no, to know when you're full. You're gonna overshoot the mark because you're so hungry. It's just biology, right? Instead, we want you to shoot for gently hungry when you get to dinner And so what that feels like is maybe a lightness in your stomach or a gentle growl, but you want to feel like you have your wits about you, that you can make a sane and rational choice around food instead of impulses driving your food choices. So what eating enough actually looks like? Eating enough looks like 3 meals a day with snacks in between as you're hungry, a nice balance of protein, fat, fiber, and carbs at every meal and snack, and never going more than about 4 hours without eating. We want to train your brain, your metabolism, and all the systems of your body to be balanced and to not have crazy cravings. When your body knows that it's going to get enough consistent fuel of all the food groups every 4 hours or so, it can actually speed up your metabolism, calm down cravings, and make you feel much more sane around food. I see so many folks in my practice who have done intermittent fasting, and they come to me and they cannot control how much food they put in their body at any one time. And it's partly because of this, right? They've trained their bodies that they're not going to get food, often and regularly. And so the cravings are so high, it's hard to say no to them on a physiological level. So we really want to iron everything out. Again, if you've ever struggled with diabetes or pre-diabetes, your doctor may have put you on something similar to this to help balance out your blood sugar. We need that protein, fat, fiber, and carbs every so often to keep you balanced out and keep your blood sugar from having spikes and crashes. So here's a good gentle nutrition example, and I'll let you look over this. But sensible, right? We want you to eat foods that you like. We want you to have all the food groups every time you eat. You might not have a full serving of a starch at a snack. That's fine, but you can see in the example of the apple and peanut butter, you're having some fiber, you're having some carbs in the apple, you're having some fat and some fiber. That's a very balanced, lovely snack, right? It will help you get to the next meal without having all the crazy cravings. We want to think about the word stabilization. Stabilization is like the key word to helping you get to this nice, stable place with eating and cravings. So the second tip I'll teach you all today is to have one finite sweet treat every day. So we've been talking about the biology, right? How to calm your body down from the crazy cravings. But there's also this psychological deprivation that comes up for us when we haven't let ourselves have the yummy, amazing food that we've always loved. It really is so human for us to desire beautiful, yummy, sweet foods. It's okay. We live in an abundant society, and you're going to be presented with yummy, sweet treats every day. And it's important that you have a little bit on a regular basis so that your body and your brain know, hey, we're not deprived of our favorite things. We can have them at any time, and we know how to moderate them. Now, the trick with this particular idea is that we want you to have one every day. It's an assignment. You have to have one every day. And when you tell yourself that, it helps you not overcompensate, right? It helps you not have 3 donuts in one day because you know you have to have one every day, if that makes sense. We're reteaching your body and your brain how to moderate and to just have one. So why every day? Exactly what I just said. You need to have one so that we can teach your brain how to moderate with just one, to enjoy one and stop at just one. We don't want you having 3 in one day and then going 3 days without. So what does finite mean? Finite means there's an end to it. Maybe it looks like the cookie in the picture. It's one of something. There's an obvious end. I really like, fun size M&M's packets. Those are like the perfect little, beautiful sweet treat size. Some days you're going to have a bigger one, like one ice cream drumstick. And some days you're going to have maybe one, Hershey size nugget with the little nuts inside, right? Some days it'll be bigger, some days it will be smaller. Here are some sweet treat examples I like. One chocolate truffle after lunch, one serving of ice cream after dinner, one fancy coffee mid-morning, one piece of cake at the office party. I love it because it is flexible. You get to the office one day and someone's having a birthday. Okay, right. You decide you're going to partake of this birthday cake with all of your office mates because you don't want to feel deprived. You want to be part of, you want to partake in. Food is so social. We don't want you to miss out on those things. So have one piece of cake at the office party, and then you don't have one later that day. You get to pick, and that's the beauty of it. There's flexibility in it. We want you to be able to have flexibility in your eating and be able to eat one sweet treat every day. So the next thing we'll talk about is the 10-minute pause. Once you have kind of ironed out these two pieces about the food itself, your biology and helping you calm down the cravings, and then dealing with the deprivation by teaching yourself how to eat one sweet treat every day, then you may still notice, okay, there are times that I want more food, that I am so clear I'm not hungry. The 10-minute pause is for those times. The 10-minute pause is also to help you understand, is this hunger or is this emotional hunger? So set a 10-minute timer and check in with your body. Do a body scan. Ask yourself if you're truly hungry. If not, or if you can't tell, set a timer for 10 minutes. In that time, you'll do anything you can to distract yourself fully. Your brain at this point may have gotten so used to going to food for comfort that it's habitual, that it feels so powerful and so strong that it's really hard to even know, is this hunger or is this an emotional need that I need to get met? So taking the 10-minute pause can help you determine what's actually going on for you. I really like distracting yourself for this 10 minutes with a combined activity. And that means like taking a walk outside and talking to a friend on the phone about something completely besides food, right? Get yourself away from the kitchen, do something fully engaging, move your body, move your mouth, move your mind, connect with another human. For me, that has been the most powerful tool, walking and talking with a friend. But others can work just as well, taking a hot shower and blasting fun music, or drawing and coloring and listening to a podcast. You get the idea. You pick something that seems soothing to you, but get away from the kitchen, get away from the food, full immersion in an activity for 10 solid minutes. If after the 10 minutes, you check in with yourself and you find that you are truly hungry, and sometimes this happens. Again, I'm a big proponent of eating when you're hungry. Your body needs to know that it's going to get the fuel that it needs when it gives you a hunger signal. Hunger signals have value. Don't ignore them. In this process, we're helping you determine what's a hunger signal feel like for me, and how do I know when I'm truly hungry? So this process can help you clarify, like, what does hunger actually feel like for me in my body? If you think you're not hungry, but you still want food, it's okay to set the 10-minute timer multiple times in one night. I have so many clients try it just once, and then they say, it didn't work. And actually, I recommend you just keep trying the 10 minutes until you get more clarity, until you feel better and don't want the food anymore. The more you practice, the easier this becomes. Remember, your brain may be wired at this point to go to food for that comfort. It's like a dopamine hit. It helps calm you in that moment. So we're just trying to teach you, and we're moving those neural pathways over from a big 6-lane highway right now that goes to food to a little single track biking trail. And it's going to feel painful for a little while, and it's going to be really hard for a little while. But the more you do it and the more you practice it, the better you get at it, and it will get easier. So if this is emotional, move on to the next step. And that is attune to your feelings. So we should pause here for a minute and talk about the difference between emotional hunger and biological hunger. Emotional hunger often feels very urgent. It screams at you. and it's generally focused on one type of food. I need sugar now, is what it sounds like. It feels like something you can't ignore, that you have to obey it. Biological hunger is usually gentle and it comes on slowly. Like you can notice the process in your body if you're paying attention. It kind of taps at you. And it can be satisfied by all types of food. You know, if you're truly hungry and someone presents you with a sandwich or a pizza or stir fry, you could probably choose any of those if you like them because you're just hungry. You just need fuel. But emotional eating is typically like, I need sugar, or I need this certain kind of cereal, or I need this certain kind of ice cream. So after the 10 minutes, check in. Is this emotional hunger or is this biological hunger? If it's emotional hunger, food absolutely won't fix your problem, right? You're only giving yourself two problems at that point. You have an emotion, and now you feel guilty and bloated and uncomfortable and overfull, right? That doesn't make any sense. So, what we need to do is use your emotions to help you determine what's actually going on for you right now. So I love these journal prompt ideas. What am I really needing right now? What emotion is under this desire for food? And when did this urge or feeling start today? So your feelings are trying to communicate to you. They're actually your friends. I think in our society, we're taught that, you know, if an uncomfortable feeling arises, we just need to tamp it down with something. It's uncomfortable. We need to get rid of it. I either need to scroll or chew some gum or eat a snack or have a drink or take some marijuana or, you know, go on a walk. Like we have to distract ourselves from it in some way. And some of those things are helpful, right? Going on a walk, we can't argue that that's a healthy way to cope with an emotion, right? But we also don't want to only think that an emotion we have to get rid of it, right? We also want to learn from what an emotion is trying to tell us, or else it's always going to keep coming up. We can't just keep ignoring them and pushing them down. So I'll give you an example of a client that I worked with that has a similar story to many clients I work with. She was a mom of young children, a stay-at-home mom. She was home with the kids, the toddlers, all day long. Her husband would come home from work and not help a whole lot. And she'd be responsible for dinner and cleanup and, you know, putting the kids to bed. And she kept finding day after day that she would go to the pantry and binge just about every evening after she put the kids to bed. And this was kind of a multifaceted emotional thing for her. She had some intense anger and resentment at her husband, she noticed, and she didn't feel like she knew how to communicate through this issue with him. And so she ended up eating the food because she didn't know how to deal with the emotion. She didn't know what she needed to say. She didn't even know what she needed necessarily. So through our process working together, she could clarify, oh, yeah, I am feeling resentful at my husband, and I do have the tools to ask him for more help with bedtime and bath time, more help with kitchen cleanup. And so, you know, as she was working with me longer, she was empowered to have those communications with her husband, and things got better over time. So, anger is really there to help you learn that you need to communicate something, or you need to set a boundary, or something isn't sitting right with you in your world that needs to change, right? The other thing that was going on for her emotionally was that she was fried. By the end of the day, she was absolutely fried, and she had had zero time for herself. And so she was going to food as a form of self-care, which clearly isn't self-care. You know, I am a firm believer that self-care is not manicures and massages. Those can be really lovely, but self-care really is listening to yourself and knowing what you need in a given time and being organized internally with your emotions and knowing what they're trying, you know, to tell you. And so in her case, she discovered she really needed that, like, I need to let my hair down in the evening kind of feeling, you know? And so she was going to food for that feeling, but it added up, you know, it didn't hit the nail on the head. So she started learning how to do some more things that were self-care for her. She particularly loved doing her long, you know, skincare routine in the evening without anyone bugging her, and like listening to a podcast that she really liked, and, you know, just taking some time to her for herself without having anyone talking to her, distracting her, asking her for things. So she needed to learn how to develop a self-care practice that didn't involve food. Other emotions that a lot of people tend to process or think that they're processing through food is loneliness. Um, Loneliness, obviously, we're needing connection. You're feeling lonely because you need connection in some way. And sometimes that's not simple to fix. Sometimes you don't have someone you can call at 10 o'clock at night and connect with. And so sometimes it's this longer process of how do you, pull the antidote to loneliness into your life, which is connection and more friendship. So this can be a longer process than just fixing a feeling in the moment, but your feelings are there to communicate to you what you're needing. So in this section, I want to give you a beautiful process for helping you sit with feelings until they subside. Because sometimes, like we just saw, you can't just fix a feeling in the moment. Sometimes, if you're lonely, you have a problem systemically through your life that you don't have enough connection and you need to work on that over time. So, how do you cope with the emotion of loneliness without going to food in the interim? So, I like to call this process, actually, I'm not going to give it a name, but this is a way to move through the emotion. I want you to sit for about 2 minutes, close your eyes, and feel what's going on viscerally inside your body and describe that to yourself head to toe. So that might sound like, okay, this is anxiety. And it feels like this tightness in my chest, and it feels like this heat in my face, and it feels like the swirling in my belly, and my legs feel like lead. It's going to sound different to you every time you do it and for every emotion. And you'll describe it to yourself for about 2 minutes. Now, you might start this process, and on a scale of 1 to 10 in discomfort of emotion, you might feel like I'm at like an 8 right now. I'm high. And by the time you kind of sit with it for 2 minutes and notice how the feelings show up for you in your body, you might feel like in a couple of minutes, wow, I'm at a 4. I can handle a 4. I can go about my day at a 4. A 4 is much more empowering than an 8. The trick with this practice is to not let your mind get involved. It's kind of like a meditation. If your mind gets involved, you want to quickly pull yourself back to the visceral feelings inside your body. Your mind can perpetuate an emotion for days, weeks, months, years, right? With stories. I feel this way because this person said blah, 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 and they said it because blah, blah, blah. All that story perpetuates the emotion. For this practice, just pull it out of your mind and into your body and let the feelings flow through you. I liken this to a dog. If you've ever spent time around dogs, they have this wonderful shake mechanism where if they get excited or upset about something, they can then just shake when the excitement is over, and then they're back to their little doggy selves. They're just on to the next thing. We humans need a shake. We've never really been taught a shake in our society. And so this is one way to do that. Sit with your feelings, let them move through. They're designed to move through you just like a dog. So some other things I very much recommend are restorative yoga and meditation, kind of as an overall blanket of self-care to help the nervous system stay calm. So many of the clients that I see are living in a highly activated nervous system, and that can drive you to the food as well. So having a balanced kind of self-care plan where you're including things like meditation and restorative yoga or practicing this body scan tool that I've given you can help overall calm the nervous system down. So you're making less impulsive decisions about food. So yeah, that's what I have for you all today.
How can they work with you? Well, let me first begin by saying every one of these steps I know is completely relevant to 99.9% of our members that I speak to on a daily basis. And it's one or the other. I mean, this is what I think a solution for many of our members' issues, the things that they're going through on a day-to-day basis. It's, you know, the feeling of a craving and not knowing what to do with it, you know, and just going by the simple, you know, just give it 15 minutes. Like that is not enough. You know, that's not enough of a recommendation on how to get through these feelings because they're so strong. And I think this workshop is completely relevant. It is amazing. I love your techniques, and I know this is going to be incredibly valuable to those who watch this and need it. So thank you so much. But I want you to share how people can reach out to you and work with you if they need to.
Thank you so much for reminding me of that. Yeah. Yeah, so I'd love for you all to take advantage of my free guide, The Emotional Eating Cycle and How to Dismantle It. Free for participating today. It's a workbook with journal prompts and a detailed breakdown of each of the parts of the emotional eating cycle. And you can find that on my website at eatingrecoverycoach.com/free guide. Quickly, I'll just say the emotional eating cycle for most of us begins with body image issues and body image or body dissatisfaction. Usually we don't go on that first diet if we weren't dissatisfied with our bodies to begin with. And once you go on a diet, as we've kind of seen, like the biological and the deprivation cycles really hit. Stress and cortisol increase, and they just lend themselves to binge eating. There's lots in the emotional eating cycle and how to dismantle it guide about the science behind all of that. Eventually, once you have a binge, you feel so guilty that you get right back into the binge eating or the emotional eating cycle again. You feel dissatisfied with your body and you go on yet another diet and you just stay in the cycle for years and years. So if we can learn how to dismantle it at any piece of the cycle, you have more freedom. So I hope you'll check out my free guide. You can also find me on Instagram at eating.recovery.coach. Thanks.
Um, Guys, go to her website and get that guide. I know it's going to be amazing and helpful for you. This workshop well, it's going to be in the platform by the time they watch this. So here it is in the platform. But guys, check out the other workshops that we have for you. You know, we want to support you in more ways than one through our workshops, master classes, our challenges, and of course, the 12-week course that we have will get you through so many things. So, but I want to thank Erin. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And we will catch you in our next workshop, everyone. Thank you.